Hi, I'm Elizabeth Price at the VA in Bedford, Mass. Been a social worker here for 10 years and I've worked with a lot of returning veterans. And we know that unfortunately a lot of them have an experience with a first responder when they're in crisis, at home, on the road, and out in the community. And there's a huge opportunity there to help our first responders have the best tools possible to really help those veterans in need and get them connected to care.
Hi, my name is John Rocker. I'm with the police department here at the Bedford VA. Several years ago, after encountering many of the first responders bringing in veterans, we determined that there was a need out there to come out with a way to train our first responders on how to interact with the veterans they're encountering out in the field.
One of the tools we use during the presentation is a lot of videos. We got to keep people awake, but we also really like to show examples through the eyes of veterans so the audience can understand a little bit about what it might be like for a veteran that they're encountering. And we know that these things are not easy to spot on the outside. We show a video that was created by a veteran to really exemplify the post-traumatic stress symptoms that a veteran could be going through. It's intense, it's emotional, but it's the reality.
It really hits home, even though I've been working here for 9 years, dealing with patients constantly, day in and day out, veterans. Watching the video over and over again has allowed me to understand what my youngest son is going through right now, and able to deal with him and be able to understand what his triggers are and how to correspond with him, and just being able to have the ability just to stop and listen and understand that he doesn't understand what's going wrong, but knowing that I'm there with him has been able to get us through some very, very serious traumatic times.
So part of the training is for first responders about issues related to veterans' health and mental health, including suicide prevention. And let me tell you, this is a tough crowd. The stigma of accessing help is still a really big barrier. So that's why we really teamed up to give a social worker some street cred with a police officer.
Yeah, it is a tough crowd, and it's been a real learning experience for me as a veteran and a first responder in interacting with the social workers, because obviously we don't always see eye to eye on different things, and there's been a few occasions while we were teaching a class that we actually would have our own discussion on and come up with an outcome that everybody was agreeable.
One example I can think of is when I got a call from an officer that was in the home of a client that I knew really well, that had a lot of history of substance abuse, was definitely struggling, and the officer wanted to do everything possible to avoid having to arrest the veteran, and knew that he had a relationship with the VA, and the veteran asked if the officer would call me. I think he thought I was going to get him off the hook from having to do something about his behavior, but at the end of the day what happened is the three of us were able to actually talk on the phone together, and the veteran agreed to willingly come into the VA for a detox. Knowing the history of that veteran and knowing how the situation could have easily escalated, it could have taken a very different turn. I was so impressed with the way the officer handled the situation and took the extra time. I think it completely changed the outcome for that client. When we started the program, it was really small, just at our VA and within our town and a couple of the departments locally. And what we noticed is that once one department liked the program, felt was beneficial, they networked with other departments that they knew. And so we were getting calls off the hook from fire, police, in our surrounding towns, but really throughout the state, because no one else was doing a program like ours. And we always thought it was so cool when another department would hear about our training or come check us out somewhere and then invite us in. And what we saw over the years is that we actually were invited to go to the local police academies as just a basic part of their regular training for their cadets, which really shows a little bit of the culture change that is expanding to address veterans' needs as just part of their curriculum, which is great.
One of the main things I think our returning vets and all veterans are, they want to be treated with respect and dignity. This training can help other first responders, non-vets, the vets, in understanding what some of these veterans are doing, or some of these vets are coming from when they go through. As I spoke before, I'm a combat vet, first responder. I've got 5 kids that are combat vets. My oldest son is a police officer. So he's dealing with it all the time. And we've talked many, many times. We've gone hours into the night just talking about how to treat people. And we've laid out the cornerstone and we've laid out the groundwork with this program so that our first responders can understand and show the veterans, show them dignity and respect in order to help them get better.
So we know a lot of programs do outreach at the VA, but we can only reach so far. But we know a lot of first responders, police, fire, EMTs, they're everywhere. They know the veterans in their neighborhoods. So the more that we can strengthen the relationship, the more veterans we can reach, and the more first responders we know are getting the tools they need. And we really believe that the model of co-educating with a clinician and a first responder has been an effective and easy way to do that.
This program is so simple in theory. It can be easily replicated in any VA. Our goal from the very beginning was to always make this go national-wide to all the VAs, because every VA is surrounded by municipalities, city, police, whatever it might be. And these are tools that our first responders out there really need to have. The ability to interact with veterans, and it's not always criminal. It could be just something as simple as being misunderstood. And if we can save one veteran, then I believe our job has been successful.
My name is Kirsty Pentecost. I'm an officer here at the Bedford VA. I'm also a veteran, an OIF veteran myself, 2009, 2010. I think that this training was amazing because I feel like I could relate to it very well. I had veterans that experienced those same PTSD symptoms, and the intervention methods are very good to have and to know.